Good morning, everyone. I am Melanie Youngsma of the Lansing Journal, here with Managing Editor Josh Woodsma.
Hello, everyone.
We are back in Studio A this morning
That's right.
because the office we were recording in last week is being painted today. So we had to be flexible. We are learning to be flexible. We're recording a little earlier than normal because we are hoping to knock this out in one take and get it
Yes.
done before the painters arrive.
That's right. Flexibility is good. But we wouldn't miss this video for the world. We're here.
Right.
Yes.
So thank you for your flexibility too.
So, Melanie, we're in March. We're well into March now. March, of course, is Women's History Month. And you had a really fun idea. Now that we have a history category that's kind of up and rolling, you had a really fun idea for some stories in March. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I talked to Marlene Cook, our Lansing history writer, and asked if she had any ideas about women in Lansing's history that she could write about.
Mm-hmm.
And she did not immediately,
Yeah.
but she said, well, I'll look into it. And she got back to me, this was back in February when we first started talking about it. She got back to me and said, I'm just having a hard time finding information. She had some names, but there was not a lot of information about these women.
Mm.
So she talked to Barb Dust at the Lansing Historical Society. I think she talked to Paul Schultz, Lansing's official historian, as well, and checked in with her later, and she said, well, I think I have 3 women, but I don't have a lot of information. So at that point we were thinking maybe we'll just do a story with some bullet points sort of mentioning these important women in Lansing history. Well, then this week Marlene turned in her assignment. She had 7 stories written, and they were all full stories.
Yeah.
So that was great. It's great having Marlene because she loves that kind of research. She loves following leads, and she'll take an idea and just follow it and talk to people and find information and put a story together.
And I think it's worth saying, Melanie, that the fact that you're saying it was kind of hard to come up with some ideas. We're not saying that there aren't influential women in Lansing right now. Right? But our goal is to look at the history of women in Lansing.
Right.
So we kind of set a criteria for ourselves that the women that we're going to write about are going to be no longer living. So they've already passed on, they've left a legacy, and we want to write about that legacy in our historical category. So we know that there are lots of influential women, history-making women in Lansing right now, but that was kind of the criteria for where we were going with this.
Right. It's a Lansing history category, and Marlene has special skills and a special passion for history. So rather than writing about history that is still being made,
Right.
current news, we wanted her to focus on older history.
Right.
So that's what she did.
Right. So it's interesting because, we have a history category. We've talked a little bit about it in videos before. But news by its definition is new, and this is not
Right.
new. These are things that have happened before. But it still really struck us as very important with the history category in general, and Women's History Month is a month designated to looking back and appreciating the contributions that women have made in our society, and we wanted to do that for our town of Lansing.
Right. And frankly, even though all these things happened many years ago, a lot of it was news to me.
Mm.
I learned new things
Right.
about
Me
Lansing's
too.
history
So much.
and women in Lansing. The 6 names that Marlene wrote about were women I really had not heard of. I might have heard of one of them. But I learned things from Marlene's work. So that's fantastic. It's important, I think, to document that.
Mm.
Some of these women had appeared in old-timey newspapers before, or I think she had an obituary for one of them, and that
Right.
was the only record of this woman.
Right.
So we feel it's important to gather that information, publish it today, because it's news to us, and their contributions affect our life in Lansing today.
Right. And I think Women's History Month, the goal of it is to, like we said, news is new by definition. So Women's History Month is bringing something old and continually making it new. It's always good to continually be reminded and have those contributions in our society, same as Black History Month, to have those contributions and those influential people and steps forward that have been made to always be making that new. Everyone needs to remember it. And those who haven't learned it need to learn it. It's an important part of where we've come. So we need to be continually making that new.
We're always building on someone else's foundation.
Right. So maybe you've already read Marlene's article on May Anderson Walker. That was our first one. May was a Norwegian immigrant. She was a Navy pilot trainer. She made dolls. She was a loving mother. She was a very talented individual. We'll link to that story below. In the same email that you received this morning, you received an article about Dorothy Wernicke. We're not 100% how to say that last name, but Dorothy was a village clerk for 15 years in the 40s and the 50s, and she was really excellent and efficient in that role. Then we're also, you can expect stories about Miss Julie Galt, a teacher that's actually sued against mandatory retirement ages. This is a Lansing teacher who was involved in a landmark case that had national implications because the appeals court found that, you can't force me to retire when I'm 65.
Right.
So that was really cool.
And there are other women coming up. I don't know if we want to give away the whole whole shebang.
That'll just be our tease,
yeah, a lot of interesting women in Lansing history. And I want to point out too, so the fact that Marlene turned in 7 stories instead of 1 means that we paid her for 7 stories. And I think she would have done this for free, but we want to pay her. She's a professional, she's experienced, she has skills that we don't have. She deserves to be paid. And we could do that because of the things that we talked about last week. We have supporters, and especially we have monthly supporters. And in last week's video, I mentioned how important it is to have monthly supports because that gives us a base so that we can make plans. But what I didn't say is having that base also means we can respond when plans need to be changed. So we were able to provide these 7 stories to our Lansing readers because of the support that we get. So thank you, monthly supporters especially. Thank you for special people who gave in response to last week's video, made a special gift. We appreciate that, and this is the result of your support. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll link to that video below if you missed it.
So thank you for your support. This is the result of the supporters who believe in the Lansing Journal.
Yes. So thank you for your support. Thank you for reading. We hope that you enjoyed our women's history articles this far, and stay tuned for more. If you're not a subscriber, now's the time. Don't miss our Women's History Month coverage.
Happy Women's History Month, everyone.